Number 1. I was almost kidnapped. When I was 6 years old, my dad got a new job. My family had to move to a bigger city in the middle of the state. The city was known for its crime, but I never really worried about it. We lived in one of the safer neighborhoods. I would often hear cop sirens at night when falling asleep. Sometimes this scared me, but not usually. Our neighbors also had this huge dog that barked and growled constantly, especially when she saw anyone she didn't know. I also had a dog, but she was not big or scary. She was the exact opposite, and she was a fluffy, cute poodle dog that rarely barked at anything or anyone. It was my job to take her out to do her business, and would often complain about it, but would eventually do it anyway. I was the one who wanted the dog after all. One day, about a year after we moved, I was out with Baby in our backyard. I was super bored, and for some reason thought to go to walk in the front yard. This wasn't anything I hadn't done before. I would often walk Baby in the backyard, front yard, and down our street. It was a dead-end road. I would also walk her in our neighbor's front yard, the one without the big dog on the other side of our house. And the old man who lived there was super nice, and even let my family use his pool a couple of times. He didn't mind if the neighborhood kids walked around his driveway, as he didn't get out much and figured someone should use it. It was a super big, circular driveway with a huge metal slide in the middle. It was woodsy property and had an overgrown look, so it would be hard for kids to mess up anything. On this particular day, after walking around my front yard, I walked over to his. Baby and I went around the driveway a couple of times before heading back to our house. His house was separated from mine by a small strip of trees with a little clearing in the middle connecting the two properties. As soon as I made it back to my driveway, I saw a small black car pull into his. I didn't think much about it at first, as the old man had lots of family members come to visit at all different hours. The car didn't take the loop towards his house, though. It came the opposite way toward my house, following the way I just came. I became really alarmed with the car. It pulled off the driveway into the small clearing in the separated trees. The car door opened, and a man got halfway out of the car. I couldn't really see his face, and he was dressed in dark clothes. I think he was wearing black gloves too, but can't say for sure. He was careful not to let me see his whole face, keeping it hidden behind the top of the car door. And there was another passenger too. I think it was a woman, but the windows were really dark so I couldn't tell. The man pulled out some cheap candies. You know, the ones they handed out when you were good in school. And he said in the most non-threatening family voice, "Hey, do you want some candy?" Everything in my body was freaking out now. I couldn't believe a strange man was actually offering me candy. And such cheap candies as Smarties. I stayed there for a second before screaming, "No!" I picked up Baby and I ran back to my house, which wasn't too far away. I don't look back and slam the door shut when I get inside. My mom said, "That was a short walk." "Yeah," I replied. I took Baby to my room and looked out the window. I didn't see the car or the people anywhere. I told Baby we must never tell anyone about what happened because at the time, it made me feel super embarrassed. I think I may have told my brother eventually, but I'm not sure. Years later, after graduating college, I tell my dad, who freaks out about it. He said I should have told him right away, and I should have, but I was a scared little kid. Even more recently, I told my mom, and she basically said the same thing. I'm just so glad that my parents and kindergarten teachers taught me not to take candy from strangers because God only knows what would have happened to me if I told the stranger, yes.
There was a teenage girl who was hired to babysit 2 young children. After the parents left, she put the children to bed and then went downstairs to watch TV. Suddenly, she heard a noise coming from the basement. It was the washing machine starting up. She was about to go and turn it off, but when she opened the basement door, the noise stopped. Shrugging her shoulders, she returned to the living room and resumed watching TV. 5 minutes later, she heard the washing machine starting up again. She got up, opened the basement door and started walking down the steps. She had only gone down a few steps when the noise stopped again. She went back to watch TV. 5 minutes later, she heard the washing machine yet again. Worried, she went upstairs, gathered the children and ran over to the neighbor's house to call the police. They arrived a few minutes later and went down to search the basement. They found a man armed with an axe, hiding behind the washing machine. He had been trying to lure the babysitter down to the basement in order to kill her.
Number 3. Drug dealer. Many of you might know part of this story already, but I'm going to tell the rest of it. Before my brother passed away, he had a friend who was a drug dealer named Mark. At first, my sister and I liked Mark. He seemed like a really genuine guy. My sister and I don't do drugs, so we didn't buy anything from him. My late brother unfortunately did do a lot of drugs. That's probably how he knew Mark. Eventually, when my brother wasn't around, Mark would come to the house and try to sell things to me and my sister. When my brother found out, he was furious. He told him that he better never come to my house, ever again. Well, of course, Mark didn't listen, and several times he would start coming over to the house. My brother ended his friendship with him and told him that he would, basically kill him if he ever came back to our house again. Of course, the person in the picture right now is my brother, so you could tell that if he wanted to hurt somebody, he could. Well, as all of you know, my brother passed away. On the day that he did, Mark came over to our house, was giving us hugs, and then again asked us if we wanted drugs. Found out later he went to my mom's store. My mom had never met him before in her life, and she was the manager of a Dollar General store. And he started hugging her and making her uncomfortable. We're not a touchy-feely family, really. And she didn't know who this guy was. Well, after my brother passed, he would come over all the time. He would ask to borrow money. He would try to sell us stuff again, not things that we would want to buy. But I'll tell you when the thing got really, really bad. I got paid, and I needed a ride to the store, because my brother used to drive us to the store. We don't have a car. Mark took us to the store, and then he asked me if he could borrow $20. I'm a bit of a sucker when it comes to things like that, so I loaned him the $20. He told me he would give it back in a couple of days. Well, I didn't see Mark again for a very long time. He came over to our house while I was sleeping and tried to force some gabapentin pills on my sister. She of course did not accept, but I guess he left them there. A few days later, I was sleeping in my bed. Well, I guess that was a silly thing to say. Where else would I be sleeping? And suddenly someone was pounding on our front door. It was Mark. I didn't wake up at first. I sleep with earplugs in my ears. But my sister was awake and she was pretty scared. He was demanding that we pay him for the $20 for the pills he left behind, which we had gotten rid of. We had at this time reported Mark to the police because we didn't want to get in trouble. Well, he kept pounding on the door, and when my sister wouldn't answer the door, he started pounding on the window. At this point, I didn't want to have anything to do with him, and he came over to my bedroom window, which I do leave unlocked like a moron. He started trying to open the window. He was yelling and screaming about that $20. It was $20 that I didn't owe him. I kept scrambling and looking for my phone to call the police. People who know me know I lose my phone all the time, and I couldn't find it. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed my stun gun, and I pushed the button, and it zapped. He heard it, and he got the picture, and he left. I didn't see Mark again for like a year. He was in the Dollar Tree, and I was in there. And when I came out, he started asking me, "Hey Jake, where's that $28 you owe me?" I told him I didn't know what he was talking about. I loaned him $20 and he never paid it back to me. I made that very clear to him. So then he's like, "Okay, I owe you $20, so now you owe me $8. I'm like, "I don't owe you $8 for pills that you left at my house that we didn't pay for, nor did we want. And actually, if you didn't know already, we let the police know that you did that and they took the pills. I don't owe you anything." Well, he had his big friend with him, and again they sort of like walked up to me and they were trying to intimidate me. I don't get intimidated very easily. I reached into my messenger bag, yes, I carry a messenger bag, and pulled out my stun gun, which looks like a small flashlight. I pushed the button and it zapped. Interestingly and coincidentally enough, a cop car pulled into the parking lot at that time, so they retreated. I thought I was done with Mark at that point. Alas, that was not true. A couple of months ago, my sister and I heard somebody outside. We went around looking. I knew I heard somebody, and you know me, I'm not going to hear something and assume, oh, it's a ghost or something like that. I hear a noise, I'm going to assume it's something important. I called around. I pushed the button on my stun gun, letting someone know if they're trying to get into my house, I have something. Well, guess who we found in our basement? Yep, it was Mark. I don't know what he was trying to do, if he was trying to steal something or do something to us because of this weird amount of money that he thinks we owed him. Well, let's just say he was sitting in a jail cell that night. You know, this makes me think a lot. My sister and I lived here for 7 years, and I've had more scary stories to tell about things that happened in this town than anywhere else in my life. Yeah, I think we're going to be moving. Maybe not in the too far future.
I'm 24, female, and this happened at my old job. My mom decided that I needed a job, one that wouldn't cause so much stress, interfere with school, and could keep me out of trouble on the weekends. So I elected to babysit for the neighbors, cousins, and other families around my neighborhood. I was 17. I had a good time with kids, and it was the easiest way to make money. Just seeing the kids' face light up when they would see me made the job that more enjoyable. But the last group of kids I babysat were weird. I would watch them for days a week. I would help them with their homework and make sure that they were fed and fast asleep by 7 o'clock at night. Things were great for the first few months, but I began to feel like they were imagining things, or something, which is when things got weird. Marissa was the oldest. She was 8. Larry was in the middle. He was 6. And Alexis was the baby. She was 3. I can recall one particular night when I was swamped with homework. The kids were watching TV in the living room, while I was sitting at the kitchen table. Math wasn't the easiest subject for me, so it took me more time to concentrate on being too focused on something else while babysitting isn't a good thing. A while had passed, until I realized that the house was strangely quiet. I looked up from the table to see the kid sitting on the kitchen floor looking up at me with those sweet eyes. "What are you doing?" I asked. Waiting to go home?" Marissa smiled. "You're already home, silly." "No, we live with you. I'm the only babysitter, sweetie. I watch over you when your mom and dad need a night for themselves." I laughed. "But Jackson said that you are our mom. You gave us to these new parents because you had to. Who is Jackson? I questioned. The man in my closet, she responded. How long has this man been in your closet? I don't know, but he says that you're pretty and kind. You have quite the imagination, Marissa. I chuckled. A sinking feeling of dread settled over me when I heard the floorboards overhead creaking because of someone walking around. The heavy footsteps frightened Larry and Alexis. They tightly hugged my legs while Marissa looked up at the ceiling. Jackson's here! Jackson's here! She clapped. I have never jumped out of my chair faster than I had in that moment. I scooped up the kids in my arms and I rushed them to the front porch. I need you to go to Mr. Hughes' house and get help, but we want to stay here with you. Just go! I pushed her. They didn't really understand why I was being so frantic, but Marissa nodded before grabbing her brother and sister's hand. I watched them run off the porch and across the yard before I stepped inside the house to face whatever pervert was in the child's bedroom. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen sink, slowly crept up the stairs and stood outside of Marissa's room. I gently pressed my ear against the door. Muffled noises met my line of hearing, which caused me to swing the door open. Marissa's window was open. The cool breeze drifted into the room, caused alarm bells to go off. I know for a fact the window was closed prior to putting those kids in front of the TV. The dresser drawers were open, clothes strewn across the floor, and toys scattered on the bed. My hand searched the wall until I felt the light switch. I flicked the light on to see the man sitting in the closet, his back against the wall, his belt undone, and a toothless grin greeting me.
You're even prettier in person.
My chest felt like it was tightening. I struggled to take a breath, but the sound of sirens filled me with relief. The man jumped up from the floor, knocked me into the wall and ran out of the bedroom. I sank to the floor and let the tears go. The kids made it to the neighbor's house and banged on the door until Mr. Hughes answered. He was alarmed when he saw the bedroom light illuminate the backyard, so he called 911. Mrs. Hughes sat in the dining room with Marissa, Larry, and Alexis until the police arrived. The man hiding in the closet had apparently been living there for a few weeks. He was in his 40s, strung out on heroin and homeless. I don't know what happened to him, but that ended my babysitting career. My advice to anyone who might babysit in the future: please check the house before you get too comfortable. You never know what is going to happen.
Hey Killer Orange Cat here. Please go to my friends the Grimtale Brothers page to watch the second half of this collaboration. If you haven't subscribed to them, and you like their videos, please go ahead and do that. They're good friends, very, very good friends, and I think they're greatly talented. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please feel free to click the subscribe button and bell below, or click the icon of Ichigo the cat that will appear at the end of this closing. Leave me a comment, and share this video with someone you think might enjoy it. If you have an original story you'd like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please email it to the address included in the description. But most importantly, don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.